Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope you're all doing well today. Today I've got 3 terrifying encounters, 2 coming from subscribers. The first subscriber encounter is one from my neck of the woods. The second, a Dogman encounter, and then, last but not least, a skinwalker encounter. Before we get into these encounters, a couple links I'd like to share. As you know, I rely on my Patreon, PayPal, and merch to help this channel to continue to grow and go. Those links are in the description below. I also have a second channel for creepypasta, fan fiction, and scary voice acting. Stories that really don't fit on this channel. Now, if that's anything that you're into, follow that link and give those stories a listen. You may just like what you hear. I also started a GoFundMe page a while back to help raise some money for urbex, cryptid hunting, and ghost hunting equipment. As of right now, I have an SLS cam, an EVP recorder, and some trail cams. I'm working on getting a thermal imaging cam. If that's anything that you're interested in helping with, that link is also in the description below. Also, please stay tuned for, at the end of the upload, a mini commercial for Tactical Edge Arms. It's my favorite new firearm. It's a AK called the Comrade. And with that, guys, I've taken enough of your time. Let's get on with these terrifying encounters, shall we? Today's first encounter is a subscriber encounter from Upstate New York. Here's my story for what it's worth. I, too, am originally from Upstate New York, and until I got married and moved to Montana, I camped and hunted in the woodlands from Greenwood Lake on the New Jersey border to Blue Mountain Lake in the Adirondacks. One hunting season, many years back, I loaded up my pickup and headed out for the 300-odd-mile drive up to Blue Mountain Lake area for the weekend of hunting and camping. It had snowed the day before, and when I got to the area called Canoe Portage, the light covering of snow, anywhere from 2 inches to ankle deep, was frozen and crunchy underfoot. Not good for sneaking up on game, but I intended to hike up to a small clearing at the end of the trail and sit until daylight and maybe get a nice fat deer. I got to the camp area at about midnight and made a hasty camp in the back of a truck. Ate a quick snack for supper and then crawled into my sleeping bag until about 4 in the morning. When I rolled out, there was a watery moon showing through the thin clouds, and it was cold, but not too bad. In fact, it looked like it would be a fine day. I ate a quick breakfast of oatmeal and coffee, put a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, some candies and cookies in my pockets, grabbed up my rifle and knife, and set out on the trail. I was really poorly prepared for anything, as I only figured to make a short day of it and then back to the truck to set up a better camp. I didn't carry a flashlight or any survival equipment, not even anything to make a fire in case the weather turned nasty. It's just plain stupid to do something like that in the wilds of upstate New York, or much more so here in the wilderness of western Montana. I was young and overconfident. Now on to my adventure. As I crunched along the trail, making no attempt to be quiet, the weak moonlight illuminated the trail, but the woods on either side were deep and dark. After about a mile, I became aware of something sounding like footsteps echoing off my own, off to the left. I brushed it off as imagination, but it sounded more real by the minute. Finally, I decided to try an old Indian trick. I walked on confidently, and then I stopped suddenly in mid-step. Sure enough, whatever it was went another step or two before it stopped. That made my hair start to bristle. I went on for another couple 100 yards or so, and then tried the trick again. I guess it wasn't too smart because it made a couple more steps. Now I'm getting the chills. A few yards ahead, the trail made a turn to the right and then crossed a small stream that was running down from a hill on my right. It sounded like the footsteps had moved ahead and crossed the trail ahead of me. When I got there, there were large footprints of a heavy creature, press deeply into the soft soil and snow. Having grown up in a rural environment, I was good at reading tracks, but these were not like anything I had ever seen. They were more oval and cloven-hooved. What's more, they were made by something walking on two legs. The stride between the prints were about 4 to 5 feet. Now, in the legends of the people who live in these mountains, haints or haunts or spooks can't cross natural flowing water. So, of course, it had to cross the trail before it came to the water. Years later, I came across stories, mainly from England, that told of devils roaming the countryside on snowy nights, leaving trails of cloven-hooved tracks that went on for miles, even up and down rooftops. Obviously, my visitor was not a Dogman or a Sasquatch, but something else, out of the vast unknown cryptid array. I'm just glad it chose not to show itself. Today's second subscriber encounter is a possible Dogman encounter. First of all, I'm a no bullshit kind of guy. Red-blooded American, I've worked my ass off for the state of Texas for 30 years, and now I'm happily retired. I have health issues, and this will play into why I was up so early that morning. Look, I've heard all kinds of stuff that go bump in the night, but you have to take it with a grain of salt and move on. What I saw that morning in July of 2019 has changed me. For one, I try my best not to go out at night now. I put a lot of research into cryptids, trying to understand what I saw and identify it. Okay, first a little bit about me. I receive life-giving treatments at 5 in the morning. I have worked hard to get where I am. I also love life and never thought I'd see a Bigfoot, Dogman, or Wendigo because I don't take my ass out into the woods. I live in the suburbs of Austin, Texas, in a city called Hodo. It's nice now for the encounter. That morning, I left home a little before 4 in the morning. I drove a 2014 Mustang GT, and yes, the type of car matters, and you'll see why in a bit. As I was driving on the dark farm road about 30 feet in front of me, from the left runs this thing about the size of a baby horse. The GT has great LEDs, so what I saw well. It was some form of canine, but larger, long front arms with short, muscular rear legs. It had a barreled chest and a skinny stomach, no tail, long snout. It was taller than the hood of my car. As it ran from the tree line into the cornfield, my analytical mind attempted to process what I was seeing, at the same time yelling, "Oh my God, oh my God!" You see, we are not expecting to see shit that is just a folklore or legend. Everything you believe about monsters just came true. But wait, this hairless thing was pinkish in color. It was void of pigment, absolute abomination to God and nature. So I recover from seeing this thing and go into research mode. First thought it was the legendary chupacabra because of my state. Then I thought it was a manged bear. Oh my God, that was close, but the legs were all wrong. Then a few weeks later, I was listening to a Dogman encounter where a young lady was scared by a skinny manged Dogman. Light bulb! Did I see a version of a Dogman in Hodo, Texas? This is my story. Please tell me what you guys think. Today's third encounter is a possible skinwalker encounter from Texas. My sister and I take our 5 kids on a road trip every year, all over the country. This year, in early June, we decided to stay a little closer to home. We drove 6 hours to Fort Davis, Texas, West Texas, not East. We stayed at a campsite in a state park there in Davis Mountains. The camping sites are broken into groups that branch off the main road. We were the only people in this loop except for the camp hosts, and they were across the street and 2 or 3 campsites over. Our site was big and surrounded by bushes and sat on a small creek. The first night we were there, a big thunderstorm moved in about bedtime. We had a large tent and then a small one-person tent for the boys to share. My nephew and my son, 8 and 9, were going to sleep in the smaller tent while the rest of us were in the big one. Once the storm really got going, my nephew became scared and came into the big tent. I didn't want my son to be out there alone, so I grabbed my pillow and went to the small tent with him. It stopped raining and we fell asleep. I woke up sometime later. I really have no idea what time it was. I'm a pretty light sleeper, so I don't know if I heard something. Then I started to hear something really weird, about a foot away from the tent on the right side. I can only describe it as a huge bug with wings, about the size of my hand. Something would sound like if it was hitting plastic. Basically, a really loud, fluttering noise. But it really didn't make any sense. It was the middle of the night and I knew nothing was touching my tent. Then, right underneath this sound came what sounded like an animal-like exhale, really jagged and almost growling-like noise. Not human, and from something big. Kind of sounded like the clicker sound from The Last of Us. The sound was about maybe knee level. Both sounds started to travel in front of the tent, towards the creek, no more than a foot away from the tent. There was never an inhale, just a long exhale. Could have been an inhale. Either way, there was no break and it never changed. Then, at the last second, as it was about to pass, I hear feet under it. They sounded like they were coming from a heavy work boot from a full-grown man. After it passed, I got a huge whiff of musky odor, like you'd get from a wild animal. I was so scared that I couldn't move and had to make myself breathe. I never felt that kind of fear before and didn't understand what I had just experienced. The next day there were no tracks, even though there was a lot of mud. Around the cars and down by the creek, I thought at first maybe it was a mountain lion, but they're extremely quiet. My sister spoke with the ranger and they said it was probably a javelina going to the creek. This is not a frickin' pig, okay? There were 2 distinct footsteps underneath it, not 4 little hooves. None of these sounds make any sense together, and I've never heard anything like that breathing or that fluttering sound. Not to mention how big the footsteps sounded for how low the breathing was coming from. If you have any ideas, please share. Most people think I'm making it up or exaggerating, but if anything, I'm not emphasizing it enough. This was primal terror. I was literally frozen with fear and couldn't feel my body anymore. I've never felt so naive or stupid for being in the wilderness like that before. Well, there you have it, guys. 3 terrifying encounters. The first encounter, the one from my neck of the woods, about 45 minutes away. Beautiful country up there. They have a great museum in Blue Mountain Lake. If anybody's ever in upstate New York, take a trip up there. It's absolutely gorgeous. The museum is full of wonderful surprises, artifacts from the Revolutionary War, Champlain, the surveying of the Adirondacks. Just an amazing museum. Amazing country up here. I'm sure everyone else in America has, beautiful country too. But I'm from here, so I just think it's beautiful. Anyway, we have a lot of cryptids up here. We have Dogman, Bigfoot, but I've never heard of something with cloven hooves like that. The only thing that I can imagine it being possibly is a deer man. And why not? The Canadian border is literally an hour and a half from Blue Mountain Lake Museum. So that's a good possibility right there. The second encounter with the chupacabra / dogman. I don't think it was a chupacabra. I think it was a dogman. I'm no expert, but the chupacabra is not very large. I'd say most of the encounters say it to be about the size of a small dog. This was the size of a small horse. Could have been manged. It just could have, maybe it could have been a different variant of the dogman that someone hasn't added an extra box to the variant of Dogman's. Definitely a creepy encounter. Let me know what you guys think. The last one, that's a terrifying encounter. And you know how terrifying it is just by the last couple of sentences. Most people think I'm making it up or exaggerating, but if anything, I'm not emphasizing it enough. This was primal terror. I was literally frozen with fear and couldn't feel my body. I've never felt so naive or stupid for being in the wilderness like that before. It just screams. Something was there. Something scared this person. And beyond a shadow of a doubt, I mean, I don't think it was a person walking around in work boots. It was something, and it was not a pleasant thing to be around. I mean, just the terror alone. You know, you've got these sounds, you got the scent, it's close to you, you have your 8 or 9-year-old child in the tent with you, it's protection mode, fight or flight mode. At that point, with your child, you just gotta buck it up and fight, you know. I don't know. I'm just glad nothing got into the tent and hurt them. So with that, guys, I want to bid you farewell, and I want to thank you for everything. So guys, I've always seen myself as an AR kind of guy. I'm not flashy, but I do like nice stuff. Who doesn't? The other day, though, I stumbled across Tactical Edge and their version of the AK, the Comrade. Not your Russian granddad's AK. I saw this all black with gold action and charge handle and said, I love you. Whether on the range or laying a pimp slap to the Dogman with 7.62, you're doing it in style and supreme quality. Tactical Edge link is in the description below, and definitely check out their other awesome products.